Thank you, Chairman Thompson and Ranking Member Smith, for the opportunity to talk about how the SALT cap is also hurting the communities in my district. For as long as our country has employed a federal income tax, we've accounted for individual state and local government taxes, as those revenues are essential to provide public services and community investment. Tax preferences like the SALT deduction make it more affordable to own a home and provide incentives for generating economic and investment activity. Most importantly, the SALT deduction prevents people from being taxed twice by both the state and/or local entity and by the federal government. But since the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, the SALT deduction has been capped at $10,000, of course. Back in Minnesota, that is hitting our neighbors in their pocketbooks, which is in turn hurting our schools and hurting funding streams on which our communities rely. This is happening around the country, and that is why I believe this cap should be repealed. The Tax Cut and Jobs Act was sold as a sweet deal for the middle class, but people back home tell me it has been more like a sugar high. Judy from Chanhassen, Minnesota told me, quote, "When the corporate tax cuts were announced, my employer gave us all a one-time check for $500, $350 after taxes. But I have not had a salary increase in almost 4 years, and I now owe $5,000 more in taxes this year." So corporations get to pop champagne bottles to celebrate their lower tax rate and the ability to fully deduct all of the expenditures on state and local taxes. But everyday Americans get the short end of the stick. And now that the dust has settled, the tax bill left them with less income, not more, and that is rippling out to impact entire towns, counties, and school districts. School superintendents back home have shared their concerns about what this means for their ability to raise funds. They are fearful that people who are now paying more in taxes will have less disposable income, of course, and will no longer support local levy and bond referendums that schools need. These are funds that wouldn't even be necessary if local education agencies received the resources they are entitled to by Congress for programs like the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, IDEA, and other unfunded mandates in the first place. But now they're scared that they could have to lay off teachers and support staff and cut important programs for our children. And it is also hurting our charitable giving. Minnesotans are generous people, and their giving supports our state's civic engagement, which is known as sometimes the best in the nation, in addition to disaster prevention and response, affordable housing, and rural investment. But now it is more difficult for people in my state to give to the nonprofits they have charitably supported for many, many years. Last week, the Giving Institute reported that in 2018, individual giving dropped by billions, yes, billions of dollars, a clear warning sign that the tax law is having unintended and very dire consequences. In fact, just yesterday morning in Minnesota, I met with the Minnesota Council on Foundations to discuss this very issue. They told me that the 2017 tax law was a game changer for giving and has threatened Minnesota's remarkable and very important tradition of philanthropy. And now states are having to clean up Congress's mess. Since the TCJA was signed into law, state legislatures across the country have been trying to find workarounds to relieve taxpayers of the SALT cap's impact. From Louisiana to Oklahoma to Wisconsin and back home to Minnesota, one of the highest tax states in the nation, they're coming together to try and make it right. So to that end, I urge all my colleagues to work together across the aisle and ensure that our tax code reflects our values and to restore fairness to our system. We should encourage real, long-lasting prosperity for our communities rather than the sugar rush that has already passed. Thank you.